Hey, it's Jimmy again, and so this is part two. We are going to be going into the veins this time. So here we have Skelly the skeleton, who still has all his arteries. First thing though we got to look at when looking at the veins is we skipped on the artery side the pulmonary trunk. And so the pulmonary trunk is blue, and so people would assume it's a vein, but it's an actual artery since it is taking essentially blood out of the heart, away from the heart, and into the lungs to get oxygenated. So the pulmonary trunk just kind of shows up in front of the aorta there. It's pretty small. It then branches out into the lungs. But the trunk is just real short coming off the in front of the aorta there. So continuing along, we have the inferior vena cava, which comes from the bottom of the heart there, and then the superior vena cava, which kind of comes up from the heart. And the brachiocephalic we start off with, and so there's actually two this time. It comes off the superior vena cava and starts to move up towards the shoulders there. And so we have two of those, of the brachiocephalic veins. And then from the right side, we have the internal jugular that comes off the brachiocephalic, and the second internal jugular. We then move on out to the subclavian, which we do not have to identify here, but those both form out along the shoulders, and that allows us to get to the external jugulars, which actually comes off the subclavian veins there. And so we have the two external jugulars that, again, going up into the head. We continue along, and we have the axillary vein, which on both sides comes under the armpit. We then have the brachialic vein, and so that essentially is going to run down between two other veins in the upper arm, but only actually go to the elbow. And so we have the two brachialic veins, which are coming off the axillary. Then on the internal part, we have the balsalic vein, and that actually runs all the way down the arm in the medial side, as we see there. And then we have the secondary, or the right basalic vein that runs all the way down the arm. Then on the outside, which actually starts up a little higher up the axillary, we see the cephalic vein. And again, that is going to run all the way down from up in the shoulder there, down the external part of the arm into the hand. And we have the second cephalic vein there. The one thing that we did not put in here is the median cuboidal vein. And so we see that those two outer veins that run all the way down the arm, so the most distal and the most medial, they then connect. And so that actually connects the cephalic vein and the basalic vein once it gets just below the elbow. And so we have another one for the right arm. Then we go down and we have the radial and the lunar, which start off of the brachial vein in the upper. So then that splits into two, and the medial is the ulnar, and the external is the radial. And again, so that comes past the median cuboidal and doesn't actually interact with median cuboidal, but it separates into the two parts, the radial on the distal part and the ulnar on the medial part. And so we're going to fill that in on the right arm there. We then have the renal, which of course has to do with the kidneys, and so we have the renal veins, which go in from the kidneys, and those go into the vena cava, approximately the same place that we saw it with the arteries. The umbilical then comes out, and so the umbilical actually is a conduit for returning the placenta from blood, for a conduit for blood returning from the placenta to the fetus until it involves soon after birth. So that comes in, and we see that little triangle there. The umbilical, or excuse me, the gonadal then comes out from the ovaries or the testes area, and it actually goes into the vena cava on the right side, but on the left side, that actually goes into the renal arteries. Continuing on, we're just going to build that through inferior vena cava down a little bit and fill in. And there again, we have the common iliac, which is just a short split off from the superior vena cava, excuse me, the inferior vena cava. And so we've drawn in the common iliac there. The external iliac then goes farther out like the arteries, and the internal iliac comes off the inside like the arteries. And so we see both of those there. And moving down, we have the median sacral then, which runs up into the left common iliac. On the previous video, we had said that the median sacral actually comes off of, we said that it comes off the common iliac, but it actually goes just behind the common iliac back into that aorta right before it splits off into the common iliac. So again, the median sacral vein runs up the sacrum and into the left common iliac. We then move to the femoral arteries, which come down similar to, the femoral veins, which come down similar to the femoral arteries, like that. And we have, again, the internal, or the medial iliacs, medial femorals, or the deep femorals. And again, those come closer to the femur on the inside of the leg and feed various veins through there. And then we have the final great saphenous, which is the largest vein in the entire body. And those come out, and you can tell those because they have all these various tributaries that go throughout the entire leg and actually run all the way down towards the feet. And again, just, super big vein and have all these tributaries. And so that is a very easy vein to identify. And so that's going to be the veins and the arteries for the body. And so those are the two videos. Hope you enjoyed.